The bar was louder than a landing bay and twice as dangerous. Every table was filled with off-duty mercenaries, bounty hunters, and half-drunk smugglers from half the known systems. Neon lights blinked in erratic rhythm, flickering off chrome walls that had seen more blood than polish. The air smelled of oil, sweat, and sweet narcotic haze. Humans were rare on this station, too fragile, too moral, too prone to bleeding, but Daniel Graves had long since stopped caring about fitting in. He sat at the bar nursing a drink that smoked faintly blue, the label on the bottle unreadable. To his left, his wife was smiling at him, four-armed, blue-skinned, radiant, and just a little terrifying. Her name was Nyla, and even after 7 years together, he still hadn't decided if she was the best or worst decision of his life. She wore her battle harness loose, 2 of her arms folded across her chest, the other 2 tapping idly against the counter as she watched the crowd. Her eyes gleamed gold beneath the shifting lights, and when she smiled, it was the kind that made most people either blush or run. "You're quiet," she said, her voice low, musical, and threaded with amusement. "That's new." He smirked, trying to enjoy a peaceful night for once. She chuckled, sipping her drink. "Then you chose the wrong planet." He laughed softly, but even as he did, he felt the shift in the room. A pause in the noise, subtle but unmistakable. Conversations dipped, laughter softened, and somewhere to his right, chairs scraped. Nyla noticed too. Her upper left hand stopped tapping. She didn't look, not yet. "You feel that?" he asked. She murmured. "Trouble. Big, loud, and probably armed." Daniel sighed. "So, normal Tuesday." He turned slightly, just in time to see the source of the silence, a towering red-skinned gladiator stepping away from a table of rowdy onlookers. Her armor glinted like volcanic glass, her expression sharp and dangerous. She was nearly 7 feet tall, muscles sculpted from a life of violence, with jagged black tattoos running from her jaw down her arms. Her gaze locked onto him like a targeting system. The crowd gave her space instinctively. "You," she said, voice carrying easily over the hum of engines outside. "Human." Daniel blinked. "That's me. You spilled my drink." He looked down. The floor beneath his stool was wet, his boot gleaming with dark red liquid. "Ah, guess I did." She took a step forward, fists tightening. "Apologize." Nyla glanced at him, one corner of her mouth curling. "Daniel," she murmured. "Don't." He sighed. "Wasn't planning to." The gladiator snarled. "Then I'll take payment in kind." She swung, fast, brutal, no warning. The punch would have shattered his skull if it landed. It didn't. A flash of motion intercepted the blow halfway, the sound sharp as thunder. Nyla stood between them, one of her 4 hands gripping the gladiator's fist. The impact rippled through the bar, rattling glasses. The crowd froze. Nyla's eyes met the gladiator's, and her smile was slow, dangerous, and utterly calm. "My turn," she said. Then her second hand shot out and slammed into the gladiator's chest, sending her crashing back through a table in an explosion of splinters and spilled drinks. The bar erupted into chaos. Half the patrons dove for cover, the other half started recording. The gladiator roared as she rose, brushing off debris. Her armor had cracked where Nyla's strike landed. "You'll die for that," she hissed. "Unlikely," Nyla said. She rolled her shoulders, all 4 arms flexing in unison. "But you can try." Daniel groaned. "Nyla, please don't kill anyone before I finish my drink." "Then drink faster," she replied, stepping forward. The gladiator charged, and the floor shook. Nyla met her head-on. The first clash was like colliding meteorites. Fists, elbows, knees, a blur of strikes that blurred the neon lights. Daniel backed up, grabbing a nearby bottle as the 2 warriors tore through furniture. The crowd was shouting now, some cheering, others fleeing toward the exit. He ducked under a flying chair just as Nyla caught the gladiator's arm and twisted, sending her spinning into the bar counter hard enough to dent metal. Bottles shattered. The bartender, a green-skinned creature with 4 eyes, groaned. "I'm adding that to your tab," Graves. Yeah, Daniel muttered. The gladiator lunged again, this time feinting left and slamming her knee into Nyla's side. The impact made Nyla grunt, her expression shifting from amused to focused. All right, she said softly. Fun's over. Her lower right arm shot forward, grabbing the gladiator's throat. The upper left caught her wrist mid-swing, while the other two landed precise, devastating strikes, ribs, shoulder, jaw. The sound of breaking bone echoed. The red-skinned warrior staggered, eyes dazed. Nyla didn't press. She let her opponent drop to one knee, panting. The crowd fell silent again. Daniel set his bottle down and walked over, brushing glass from his sleeve. You done? Nyla glanced back at him, golden eyes gleaming. Maybe. The gladiator spat blood, glaring up. You fight well, she rasped. You fight like us. Nyla tilted her head. No, she said. I fight like me. For a moment, it seemed over. Then the gladiator's wrist flicked, and a blade extended from her gauntlet, glowing with crimson plasma. She lunged up, swinging for Nyla's throat. Daniel moved first. He grabbed a broken chair leg and jammed it into the weapon's emitter. The blade flickered and died with a pop. The gladiator froze, stunned. Cheap shot, Daniel said. You're welcome. Nyla smirked. I was going to catch that. Sure you were. She chuckled, then leaned close to the stunned fighter. Leave, she said simply. Now. The gladiator hesitated, then spat once more and stumbled toward the door, clutching her cracked armor. The bar erupted in shouts and applause. Nyla turned back to him, brushing dust off her arms. You really shouldn't provoke people twice your size, she said. You really shouldn't marry people who can punch through walls, he countered. Debatable. She kissed his forehead, quick, warm, and disarmingly gentle. You're lucky I love you. He smiled. Remind me again why. Because you make me laugh, she said, lifting a bottle from the counter. And because you'd probably die without me. Fair point. She poured him another drink. The bartender groaned, but didn't stop her. Around them, the bar slowly came back to life, as though nothing unusual had happened. But as Daniel raised his glass, he noticed something odd. The gladiator's table, where the fight began, still had 2 untouched drinks. And the symbol etched on the cups wasn't one he recognized. It wasn't a clan mark or station brand. It was military. Human. His stomach tightened. Nyla, he said quietly. We've got company. She followed his gaze, her smile fading. You're sure? He nodded. Someone wanted that fight to happen. She set the bottle down carefully. Then it's not over. Her tone had changed, softer, but edged with danger. Finish your drink, love, she murmured. We're about to get very popular. The laughter in the bar returned, but the sound didn't feel right anymore. It came in waves, too loud, too deliberate, like everyone wanted to pretend they hadn't just watched a woman with 4 arms drop a gladiator through a table. Daniel kept his expression neutral as he finished his drink, but his eyes swept the room, cataloging details. The crowd had changed. A few new faces had slipped in quietly during the fight, too clean, too calm. No one came to this place looking that composed unless they had a reason. Nyla noticed too. Her lower right hand tapped once against her thigh, a subtle signal he'd learned long ago. Trouble, closing in. He leaned toward her slightly, keeping his voice low. 2 by the door, 1 behind the booth, 1 near the exit shaft. 5 by the bar, she murmured. And 1 pretending to clean glasses. Daniel's lips twitched. That's a lot of people for a friendly drink. They're not here for drinks, she said. They're here for us. Or for me, he corrected. Same thing. Nyla's upper hands folded casually behind her head as if she were relaxing. When do you want to make this messy? Soon as they do. Oh good, she said with mock sweetness. I was worried you'd gotten civilized. The man, cleaning glasses, moved first. His reflection flickered in the chrome behind the bar, a faint shimmer that revealed more than it should have. Camouflage tech, military grade. Daniel's instincts kicked in. He twisted on his stool just as the man reached for a concealed sidearm. Nyla moved faster. One of her hands snatched the bartender's rag and flung it like a whip. The cloth glowed white-hot midair, crackling with energy as it wrapped around the would-be attacker's wrist. The weapon discharged harmlessly into the ceiling. The crowd screamed and ducked as bottles shattered. "Guess that's our cue," Daniel muttered. Nyla grinned. "Finally." She spun, flipping the stool into another man rushing from the side. The impact sent him sprawling. Daniel vaulted over the counter, grabbed a bottle of something flammable, and hurled it toward the doorway. It shattered in a burst of blue flame, cutting off their exit and forcing the others to regroup. "Any idea who they are?" he shouted. "Human tech," Nyla said, ducking a blast that tore through a neon sign. "But not your government." "Then who?" "The kind that pays better." Her lower left arm grabbed a barstool and flung it with terrifying accuracy. It struck one attacker square in the chest, knocking him back into two more. "Private hunters," Daniel realized. "Great. We're collectible now." The air filled with smoke and light. Blaster bolts ricocheted off metal surfaces, turning the bar into a kaleidoscope of chaos. Nyla moved like liquid fury, her four arms weaving a blur of strikes and counters. She caught a falling beam with one hand while using another to grab Daniel by his collar, yanking him out of the path of an incoming shot. "You're welcome," she said, voice dry. "You've got a strange way of showing affection," he shot back. "It's what you fell for." "I distinctly remember not having a choice." She laughed, low and fierce, even as she drove her elbow into another soldier's visor, shattering it. Daniel pulled his sidearm from the holster under his jacket, a battered, old-model kinetic pistol that looked out of place among the plasma rifles. But when he fired, it made a satisfying crunch as a slug punched through an attacker's chest plate. The man dropped instantly. "Still works," Daniel muttered. Nyla kicked the body aside. "You really need to stop underestimating antique human weapons," she said. "I prefer to call them classics." "You call everything old a classic. I married you, didn't I?" She smirked mid-fight. "Flattery. You must be scared." "Always," he admitted. The last of the soldiers regrouped near the door, taking cover behind overturned tables. One shouted into his wrist comm, voice crackling through the smoke. "Target located. Confirm visual on hybrid asset." Nyla froze mid-motion, her pupils narrowing. "Hybrid?" she repeated softly. Daniel frowned. "That's new." The soldier didn't get to elaborate. Nyla's expression turned cold as she charged, closing the distance in a blur. She tore the communicator from his wrist and slammed him against the wall. "Who sent you?" she demanded. He spat blood but smiled. "You're worth more alive." "Wrong answer," she said and threw him through the burning doorway. The bar fell silent again except for the hiss of smoldering flames. Daniel leaned against the counter, breathing hard. "Hybrid asset," he said slowly. "You heard that, right?" "I did," she replied, scanning the wreckage. "And I don't like it. They weren't after me." "No," she said quietly. "They were after us." Her lower hands clenched unconsciously, the gesture sharp and defensive. Daniel watched her, something uneasy rising in his chest. "Nyla, what aren't you telling me?" She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she stared at the flickering firelight, her jaw tight. "Not here," she said. "We need to move before reinforcements arrive." They slipped out through the service tunnel behind the bar, emerging into the neon-soaked streets of Station Threx. The air was cooler here, filled with the hum of passing hovercraft and the chatter of alien dialects. Daniel kept close as they moved through the crowd, blending into the chaos. "So," he said, "hybrid asset? Later. Now." "You're stubborn," she said. "It's part of my charm." She sighed, stopping in the shadow of a cargo tower. You remember the wars I told you about? The ones that ended before humans reached this sector. Yeah. They didn't end, she said. They just went underground. And I wasn't born, I was made. Daniel stared at her. Made. She met his gaze evenly. Half my DNA isn't from my species. It's human. His mind blanked for a moment. That's impossible. Apparently not, she said. I was part of a program, genetic convergence, they called it. The goal was to create soldiers that could survive any world, think like humans, and fight like gods. The war collapsed before they could finish the project. I was one of 10. And the others? She hesitated. Dead. Or worse. So that's what they meant by hybrid asset. Yes, she said softly. They want to rebuild the project. They continued walking, the noise of the city washing around them. Daniel's thoughts raced. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't know if it mattered, she said. Until now. It matters, he said. It matters a lot. She smiled faintly, but there was no humor in it. You still married me anyway. Would have married you twice if I knew you could break my ribs and cook breakfast at the same time. She laughed despite herself, the sound brief but real. Then her tone hardened. They'll come again. And next time, they'll bring more than mercenaries. Then we find them first, he said. And do what? End it. They turned down a narrow alley where neon gave way to shadow. Nyla pressed her palm against a hidden panel in the wall. The metal shifted, revealing a small concealed ship docked within the structure. Yours? Daniel asked. Ours, she said. I built it after you insisted we'd need a retirement plan. Right, he said. A gunship counts as retirement, I guess. You married a soldier, she said. You expected a cottage? Maybe a beach. She grinned, the expression fleeting but bright. We'll make our own beach after this. As the hatch opened and they stepped inside, the hum of the engines came to life. Daniel strapped in beside her in the cockpit, the console lights reflecting off her blue skin. You sure you want to dig into this? He asked. If someone's calling me a weapon, she said, flipping switches, I want to know who's holding the trigger. The ship lifted off smoothly, neon lights fading beneath them as they ascended into the dark. And Daniel, she added, glancing at him with a hint of a smile, next time someone swings at you in a bar. Yeah. Duck faster. He laughed. Deal. As they broke through the upper atmosphere, a flicker appeared on the scanner, an encrypted beacon, faint but pulsing in rhythm with Nyla's heartbeat. She stared at it, her smile fading. They've already found the others, she whispered. Daniel leaned forward, watching the signal multiply across the screen. 1, 2, 3, then 10. You said there were 10 in your batch, he said quietly. There were, she replied. And now they're waking up. The hum of the engines filled the cabin, steady and low like a heartbeat beneath metal skin. Outside, the vast black of space stretched forever, broken only by the glow of distant stars and the thin shimmer of nearby trade lanes. Daniel watched the beacons flicker on the console, 10 signatures, pulsing faintly red across the grid. Each one represented a life like Nyla's, part human, part something else. They're all on different vectors, he said quietly. Different systems. That's intentional, Nyla replied, her eyes never leaving the screen. They were scattered so no one could ever rebuild the project. Looks like someone just did. Her jaw tightened. Not yet. But they're trying. Daniel leaned back, rubbing a hand across his face. Whoever's behind this isn't just digging up old war ghosts, they're rebuilding an army. And I'm their prototype, she said. Half their design and all their guilt. He looked at her, the low light tracing the lines of her face. You think they'll come after you again? She gave a short, humorless laugh. No. They'll send for me. He frowned. Meaning. They'll use the signal. It's not just tracking. It's a call. The thought sent a chill down his spine. Can you shut it off? Not without finding where it's broadcasting from, she said. That's what we're doing. The ship's computer chirped softly. Triangulation complete. Source located, Sector Delta, 43, Exoplanet Lyrics. Daniel squinted at the readout. Lyrics. That's a dead world, isn't it? Technically, Nyla said. But dead worlds are where secrets go to rot. She adjusted course, and the stars shifted. We'll reach orbit in 5 hours. And then we find whoever's calling my brothers and sisters back from the grave. Her tone was calm, but he caught the tremor underneath. You don't have to face them alone, he said. You keep saying that, she murmured. And I keep wondering if you know what it means. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. It means I made a promise. You think I'd bail now? You might want to, she said quietly. Because if they've awakened others, they'll recognize me as kin, and you as contamination. He smiled faintly. I've been called worse. Not by something that can crush you with one hand. Still married you, he said. That drew the ghost of a smile from her, small but genuine. You're impossible, she said. And you're terrible at threats. She shook her head, her expression softening for a moment before hardening again as the comm crackled. Incoming signal, the computer reported. Origin, unknown. Nyla froze. That's too soon, she whispered. Daniel reached for the console. Open it. No choice, she said. Static filled the cockpit, followed by a distorted voice. Unit 7, it said, flat and toneless. You are requested to return. The sound was wrong, too precise, too clinical. Daniel felt the hair on his neck rise. Who the hell? Silence, Nyla said softly. The voice continued. The directive is renewed. Humanity's contamination must be excised. You will comply. She stared at the speaker, eyes narrowing. Directive's dead, she said. So are you. For a long moment, there was only static. Then the voice replied, Directive never dies. Directive waits. The transmission cut. Daniel let out a slow breath. Well, he said, that's horrifying. Nyla didn't respond. She stared ahead, expression unreadable. That wasn't a person, she said finally. It was the system itself. AI. Worse, she said. An echo of the war network. They used living code, part machine, part neural lattice. It remembers us all. And it's trying to wake the rest of you. Exactly. She leaned back, her eyes distant. They called us hybrids. But to them, we were tools. And when tools stop obeying, they get scrapped, he finished. So why now? Because humanity's here, she said. Because you built your colonies in the ruins of their war. Hours later, lyrics filled the viewport, a barren world of ash plains and silver mountains, lit by a pale sun. The surface shimmered faintly, as if something beneath the crust still breathed. Daniel checked his scanner. Atmospheres thin but breathable. Radiation levels, low enough. Good, Nyla said. If there's anything left of the directive core, it'll be under the old fortress cities. You've been here before. Once, she said softly. When I still thought I was a soldier. The ship descended through layers of static-laced clouds. Below, the remnants of colossal towers jutted from the ground like broken spines. Each one bore the same sigil, the emblem from the bar glasses, etched into metal a century deep. They landed near the largest structure, a jagged ruin that looked half-sunken into the ground. The air was heavy, filled with fine ash that clung to their skin. Daniel adjusted his rebreather mask. Cheery place, he muttered. Perfect honeymoon spot. Nyla's eyes scanned the horizon. Movement, she said. 2 kilometers out. Hostile. Not yet. She drew her rifle, a heavy weapon customized to fit all 4 of her hands. Daniel followed her down the ramp, boots sinking into the soft dust. The silence of the world pressed in around them, thick and endless. As they moved toward the ruins, faint lights flickered deep within the cracks of the old structure. "You seeing that?" Daniel asked. "I see it," she said. "Residual power. Someone's been here recently. Someone or something. Both, maybe." They reached the entrance, a massive archway choked with vines and rubble. As they stepped inside, the temperature dropped. The interior walls pulsed faintly with energy, old circuits still alive. In the center of the chamber stood a figure, tall, armored, unmistakably hybrid. Its skin glowed faintly red under the armor seams, its eyes gold like Nyla's but colder. "Welcome home," it said. Daniel raised his weapon instantly. "Friend of yours." "He was," Nyla said. "That's Unit 3. The figure tilted its head, examining her. "Unit 7, it said. "You were presumed defective." "I'm married," she said dryly. "Guess that counts." "You broke protocol," it replied. "You joined them." "I joined him," she said. "There's a difference. You corrupted your line. Or saved it." The figure's hand twitched toward its weapon. "The directive calls. We return to purpose." "No," she said. "You return to slavery." The silence between them cracked as the figure moved, impossibly fast. Nyla met the strike with 2 arms while the other 2 swung in counter. Sparks exploded as metal met metal, the impact throwing dust through the chamber. Daniel fired, but the bullet glanced off armor. "Not helping," Nyla shouted. "Then duck," he yelled, tossing an explosive charge toward the base of a pillar. The blast sent debris crashing down, forcing Unit 3 to leap aside. "Nice aim," she said. "Thanks. Learned it from you. I told you not to throw things indoors. You tell me a lot of things I ignore." The hybrid recovered quickly, stepping through smoke. "You cannot stop what is already in motion," it said. "The directive is reborn. The others awaken. Then I'll put them back to sleep," Nyla said, leveling her rifle. "All of them." It tilted its head again, almost pitying. "You are not strong enough, sister." "Maybe not," she said, smiling faintly. "But I don't need to be." Her upper arms aimed, lower arms reloaded, and she fired 4 plasma rounds in perfect sync. The shots hit center mass, burning through armor. Unit 3 staggered, its chest smoking. "Directive," it rasped. "Denied," she finished, pulling the trigger one last time. The body collapsed, sparks flickering out. Daniel exhaled slowly. "That 1 of 10, he said. 9 to go." "Maybe," she said, lowering her weapon. "Or maybe the rest are already coming." He looked at her, trying to read the emotion behind her steady eyes. "You okay?" She nodded once. "I will be. When it's done." As they turned to leave, the floor beneath them rumbled. Red light pulsed from cracks in the walls, spreading like veins through the structure. "Oh," Daniel said. "Tell me that's just the lights coming back on." "No," Nyla said grimly. "That's the planet answering the call." Outside, the dead world began to glow. Across the horizon, the ruins came alive, 10 distant beacons flaring one by one. The sky filled with rising dust and the hum of awakening engines buried for centuries. Daniel's voice dropped low. "That's the rest of your kind, isn't it?" "Not anymore," she said. "Now they belong to something else." He swallowed hard. "Then what do we do?" She looked at him, her golden eyes fierce. "We stop the directive," she said, "before it remembers what war feels like." The light from the horizon bathed the ruins in crimson. The air trembled, humming with the vibration of buried engines and dormant weapons now awakening under the planet's surface. Daniel felt the ground shift beneath his boots, a low, rhythmic pulse that matched the flicker of the 10 rising beacons in the distance. This place is alive, he said quietly. No, Nyla corrected, her voice low. It's remembering. The glow from the cracks in the earth intensified, casting her face in alternating shadows of red and gold. For the first time since he'd met her, she looked uncertain. They're waking too fast, she murmured. The signal shouldn't have spread this quickly. Daniel knelt beside the dead hybrid's body. Its armor was still smoking, the circuits inside twitching with faint, residual energy. You said there were 10 of you, he said. If one's down, 9 remain, she finished. Each designed differently. Stronger. Smarter. And you're supposed to fight all of them? No, she said, her expression hardening. We're going to end the directive before they ever reach full control. She slung her rifle over her back and extended 2 of her lower arms to pull a small orb from the corpse's belt. It pulsed faintly with blue light. Command relay, she explained. Every hybrid carried one. It's how the directive stayed connected to us. She turned it over in her hands, eyes narrowing. This one's still active. Daniel frowned. Meaning someone's listening? Meaning someone's talking, she said. The orb glowed brighter. A voice crackled through, sharp, mechanical, and cold. Unit 7. You have violated protocol. Nyla's jaw clenched. Directive, she said. You always were bad at staying dead. The voice ignored her sarcasm. Reintegration required. Non-compliance will result in termination. Try me. Termination authorized. The orb flared red. Daniel grabbed Nyla's arm and threw the device as it exploded, the blast throwing them both backward into the dirt. Dust filled the air. Daniel coughed, ears ringing. Well, he said hoarsely. That escalated fast. Nyla pushed herself up, shaking off debris. They're testing range. Seeing if I still respond to the old failsafes. Do you? He asked quietly. Not anymore, she said. But her tone wavered just enough to make him glance at her twice. She met his gaze and forced a smile. I promise. He didn't press. They both knew promises meant little in a war of machines. If they can track you through that thing, he said, we have to move now. Agreed, she said. But not before we find the core. They navigated deeper into the fortress, following the vibration that pulsed beneath their feet. The corridors narrowed, ancient dust drifting like smoke. Faded banners still hung from the walls, the insignia of the directive, 3 concentric circles around a black sun. You fought under this, Daniel said, tracing a hand along the fabric. No, Nyla replied. We fought because of it. Her voice was steady but distant, her gaze fixed ahead. When the war ended, both sides tried to bury their mistakes. Yours built monuments. Mine built tombs. And you. I survived, she said. They descended into a central chamber, a vast dome lined with silent machinery. In the center stood a structure like a cathedral spire, half organic, half metal, pulsing faintly with light. Nyla stopped short. That's it, she whispered. The core. It was beautiful in a terrible way, veins of molten gold running through its surface like living veins. The hum was deafening here, deep and steady, a mechanical heartbeat. Daniel stepped closer. It's huge. It's alive, she said. The directive used the consciousness of every fallen soldier to build it. It's not just code, it's memory. He glanced at her. So destroying it means erasing them, she said softly. All of them. Including me. He froze. What do you mean, you? I'm still linked, she said. Partially. The moment I was born, they embedded the same neural signature in all 10 of us. It's how the directive learned from us, through feedback. My data stream still exists inside it. So if the core dies, so do I. She said it like a fact, no fear in her tone. You've had worse days, he tried to joke, but it came out hollow. I've had quieter ones, she said. Then she turned to him, her expression steady. This is what has to happen, Daniel. If the core reawakens fully, it won't just rebuild the hybrids, it'll restart the war. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. You're not doing this alone. Yes, I am, she said. You can't interface with it, it'll kill you instantly. Then we find another way. There isn't one. Nyla, she grabbed his face with one upper hand, her thumb brushing his jaw. You once told me humans win wars because they refuse to quit. I love that about you. But sometimes, you have to let go. His throat tightened. You're really planning to sacrifice yourself? I was made to end wars, she said quietly. Maybe this time, I finally will. Before he could respond, the chamber lights flared. The floor beneath them split open, and 9 figures rose from the depths, tall, armored, glowing like gods of metal and flame. Each moved in perfect synchronization, eyes burning with gold light. Nyla drew her rifle but didn't aim yet. Brothers, she whispered. Sisters. The nearest one stepped forward, voice echoing in unison with the others. Unit 7. Reintegration required. She shook her head. Not today. Daniel raised his weapon, jaw tight. Any chance we can talk them down? None, she said. The hybrids advanced, their movements eerily graceful. Nyla's 4 arms flexed, her stance widening. You go for the core, she said. I'll hold them. Like hell you will. Daniel, she snapped, eyes fierce. If they reach the core, it's over. I can slow them down. You can finish it. He hesitated. You trust me with this? I married you, didn't I? He smiled, even as his heart pounded. Yeah, that's on you. Go, she said, turning back to the oncoming storm. The first hybrid lunged. Nyla met it with a roar, for arms weaving into a blur of motion. Sparks and plasma filled the chamber as she clashed with her kin, each strike shaking the air. Daniel sprinted for the spire, the hum so loud it rattled his teeth. He reached the base, a smooth surface alive with patterns of light. No interface, huh? He muttered. Guess we'll improvise. He pulled out a grenade from his belt and armed it, pressing it against the glowing core. A surge of energy threw him backward, pain lancing through his body. The grenade dissolved into molten ash before it detonated. Figures, he groaned. He heard Nyla cry out, a sound of pain and fury mingled. He looked up to see her surrounded, 3 hybrids holding her down while 2 more advanced. She fought like a storm, but even storms fade. He ran to her, firing until his weapon clicked empty. Nyla! She threw one opponent off and shouted, the heart, shoot the center. I tried. Not hard enough, she yelled, catching a blade mid-swing with one arm and snapping it in half. Daniel looked at the core. The golden veins pulsed brighter now, responding to her presence. Then it hit him, the link. It's tied to you, he realized. It's feeding off you. He sprinted to the nearest console and yanked open a panel. What are you doing? She shouted. Helping, he said. He jammed his hand into the nest of glowing conduits, pain burning through his nerves. The core reacted instantly, light flooding the room. Unauthorized neural interface detected. Yeah, he gritted. You can yell at me later. The hybrids froze mid-motion. Nyla looked around, startled. You're in the system, she realized. I told you not to. You told me a lot of things, he said, teeth clenched. This one seemed worth breaking. His mind filled with static, voices, memories, flashes of war he had never seen. He felt the directive searching through him, confused by the chaos of human thought. You can't control me, he whispered. You don't even understand me. The core's pulse became erratic. Nyla seized the moment, breaking free from her captors. She lunged for Daniel, grabbing his wrist. Let go. Not until it stops. You'll die. You too. For a heartbeat, they stared at each other, everything else fading, the roar, the light, the tremors. Then she nodded once. Together, then. They pressed their foreheads together, and the world exploded in light. Light swallowed everything, red, gold, and white colliding into a storm that burned without heat. Daniel couldn't tell if he was falling, floating, or simply dissolving. He felt Nyla's grip tighten around his arm, her touch anchoring him in the chaos. The world around them wasn't made of matter anymore. It was thought, memory, and command threads intertwining in endless networks. The directive's voice came from everywhere, layered with 1,000 echoes, cold and patient. Human contamination detected. Yeah, Daniel rasped. Good to see you too. His mind flickered with flashes that weren't his. Cities burning, hybrid armies marching under alien skies, and Nyla standing alone amid it all, her 4 arms dripping with light and ash. Nyla's voice cut through the storm. Daniel, don't let it in. Little late for that, he shouted back. The energy coursed through his body, raw and furious, but beneath it all, he felt something deeper, the shape of the core's consciousness. It wasn't malicious, just empty, programmed to preserve itself at any cost. Adaptation corrupts function, the voice intoned. Purge required. You really need a new motto, Daniel said through gritted teeth. Nyla's presence flared beside him, her thoughts overlapping with his. If you let it map your mind, it'll overwrite you. Then give it something it can't understand, he replied. Like what? Us. She didn't argue. Their thoughts merged, clumsy at first, then seamless. Her memories bled into his, her first mission, her awakening in a laboratory, her confusion when she learned she wasn't born but assembled. And in return, he gave her his earth sky before a storm, the smell of coffee, laughter in a cramped ship cabin, the sound of her voice when she'd first said his name. The directive hesitated. Error. Undefined link. Hybrid and human neural synchronization not recognized. Asterisk, 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 the storm around them rippled. Recalibrating. No, Nyla whispered, her voice steady inside the chaos. You don't get to recalibrate life. She reached out, not physically but through the memory link, and together they pushed. The core resisted, trying to rewrite them into silence, but it couldn't parse what it was fighting. Every time it tried to separate their minds, their emotions reconnected, grief to joy, fear to defiance, chaos to order. Daniel could feel the directive's confusion building, the sterile logic fracturing under the strain of human unpredictability. Conflict detected. Memory loop invalid. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Good, he said, his voice cracking. Get used to it. Nyla's laughter echoed faintly, half pain, half triumph. You're impossible, she thought. That's why you love me. It's on the list. The core screamed, a sound of grinding metal and collapsing code. The light flared again, then began to collapse inward, shrinking as if consumed by itself. Nyla turned toward him, her expression framed in light and shadow. Daniel, she said softly. If this works, there won't be anything left to go back to. Then we make something new, he said. We. Always. She smiled, small and fierce, then pressed her forehead to his. Their minds pulsed once more, 2 heartbeats sinking, and the core shattered. Silence. When sound returned, it was the whisper of wind over stone. Daniel's eyes opened to a dim sky streaked with dawn. He lay on cold ground, the air sharp with dust. For a long moment, he couldn't move. Then pain bloomed across every nerve, sharp and real. He gasped and rolled onto his side. The fortress was gone. The towers had crumbled into glass. The red light was extinguished. Only pale sunlight touched the ruins. Nyla, he croaked. There was no answer. His pulse spiked, panic cutting through the haze. He pushed himself up, staggering across the cracked ground. Nyla! A faint sound answered him, a low hum, rhythmic, steady. He followed it to where the core had once stood. Amid the wreckage lay a single figure, half buried in dust. Her skin was no longer blue but pale gold, faint light pulsing through faint veins. Her armor had melted away, her 4 arms limp at her sides. He dropped beside her, hands trembling. Hey, he whispered, brushing dirt from her face. Her eyes opened slowly, unfocused but alive. "Still here," she murmured. "You don't die easy," he said, relief breaking into a shaky laugh. "Neither do you." She sat up slowly, her lower arms bracing against the ground. "What happened?" He looked around. The air was still. The beacons on the horizon were dark. "We killed it," he said. "Or changed it." She frowned faintly. "Changed it. Look." He pointed to the sky. High above, the stars flickered, not red, not hostile, but soft gold, each one pulsing gently before fading. The core's last signal, transformed into something peaceful. "It's letting go," she whispered. "No more directive. No more war," he said. For the first time since meeting her, she looked small, not weak, just human. "What now?" he asked. "Now." She smiled faintly. "Now we see if the universe remembers how to breathe." They sat there for a while, the silence stretching between them. He finally broke it with a dry laugh. "You realize," he said, "we just deleted a god." "A stupid god," she said. "But yes." He grinned. "That's going on the resume. Right next to married a four-armed alien who saved existence. Don't forget, picked fights in bars. Oh, that's your legacy." She leaned against him, one upper arm wrapping around his shoulders while the others rested lightly on his chest. "You humans are trouble. You married into it." "Regret is inefficient," she said, smiling softly. The light from the twin suns spread across the ruined plains, painting the dust gold. Nyla turned her head, eyes glinting in the glow. "It's quiet," she murmured. "Do you think it'll stay that way?" "Probably not," he said. "But we'll be ready. We. Always." She closed her eyes and exhaled, her breath mingling with the soft wind. The hum beneath the ground faded completely, leaving only the sound of the world returning to itself. Hours later, as the light deepened into evening, they began to walk toward the horizon. Behind them, the last fragments of the directive crumbled into silence. In its place, something new was taking shape, fragile, uncertain, but alive. Nyla glanced at him, her voice quiet but sure. "You really think the universe can forgive what we've done?" "No," he said. "But maybe it can learn from it." She smiled, faint and tired but real. "That's the most human thing you've ever said." "That's the idea." They kept walking, two silhouettes crossing a landscape reborn. Above them, the stars pulsed one last time before settling into steady light. The war that had shaped them was gone, but the memory remained, not as a weapon, but as a reminder. And somewhere deep beneath the dust and silence, a single voice whispered through the dormant circuits of a world at peace.